So these days you're closer to Gettysburg, right?
Yeah, I'm about 12 miles east of Gettysburg. And this is where I was born and raised here.
Oh, okay.
So, when I got out of high school, I moved down to Baltimore. I lived down there about 40 years. And, I was doing my cases and such. And I was coming back up here and doing cases as well. I literally started doing paranormal investigations back in the mid-'70s when I was in high school. And, back then when, you tell somebody you're a paranormal investigator, you kind of got the dirty eyeball, they
right.
crazy. But then of course you didn't have the cell phones, the technology, and computers and everything like you do now.
Mm-hmm.
So it was all word of mouth. But as I got older and started, I moved down to Maryland, and I had the Bigfoot encounter in 1981. Then I had my other encounter with the winged humanoid in 88, and then I started doing other cases and such. Around the Mid-Atlantic. I kind of built an archive of a lot of different things.
Where was the Bigfoot encounter at?
Sykesville, Maryland.
Oh, okay.
If you go online and check Sykesville Monster, that was in fact I was on Monsters and Mysteries in America. I did in 2013. I did an episode on that.
That must be why it sounds familiar. I think I've seen that entire series.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, I was fishing and had an encounter with one of these things, and actually I didn't really know what I was looking at, to be honest with you. I mean, I wasn't into cryptids or anything at that point. That was where it actually began. And and since there was some government cover up with it, and a lot of unanswered questions that still haven't been answered as to what it was and why it was there and why the feds and the local government were interested in it. I never did get any answers to it, and it kind of stuck with me. So I wanted to explore my own and find out what it was I actually saw. That's when I heard about some previous sightings that occurred in the early 70s of something very similar to that people were calling the Sykesville Monster. And that area where I did have the sighting, there had been, since the BFRO actually started back in the mid-'90s, there had been 4 Class A reports in that region. So, it's an area where there have been a lot of phenomena, the Patapsco Valley State Park area, and there's a lot of other things going on. In fact, we're looking into a cryptid canine case that it was just reported to me yesterday, and we've had a few of those as well. So, this part of the country, when you talk about cryptids, you don't really talk about Maryland or, our part of Pennsylvania a whole lot, but honestly, it keeps us busy.
Well, on the surface, that's the way Illinois looks too. I mean, I never really thought of Illinois as a big cryptid or paranormal state until we started digging into it, and then it was. You can't walk 10 steps without running into, something that happened here or was reported here.
Yeah, Illinois has had a lot of phenomena. The upper Midwest in general has been very active. Indiana, Illinois, and Wisconsin, even over into Michigan, have been very active over the years.
Yeah.
And I've gotten a lot of reports over the years from those areas. But Illinois does have a lot of activity.
Well, maybe it's because the population, maybe it's because there's something going on around here and Canada. I mean, who knows?
I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that we're on Native American lands too. I mean, so much of Illinois and Wisconsin are, you've got Native American burial mounds and sacred places, and they seem to contribute to that energy that you were talking about earlier, where there's almost like places of power and portals scattered throughout the states.
Yeah, that's been the case for the most part. Here in Pennsylvania, we've had a lot of different tribes that have moved in and out. Just like you talk about Point Pleasant, the Shawnee, who actually started in Pennsylvania, moved a little west into Ohio, then moved down into West Virginia. A lot of areas where they had settled over the years and had been involved warring with other tribes and settlers have become places of power, have become places where a lot of bizarre phenomena occurs. I truly believe that the Mothman of Point Pleasant was a summoned being by a very strong indigenous spirit as a guardian or sentinel.
Interesting. Now, do you? I know when the story of the Mothman of Point Pleasant came out, and this was largely due to the book and the movie, The Mothman Prophecies,
Right.
that they associate him with the tragedy at the Silver Bridge, and basically said he was either a harbinger of doom, or maybe he caused the tragedy. But is that something that you believe, or do you think that was just kind of a wrong place at the wrong time kind of thing?
Yeah, it's kind of after the fact type of thing. I think, of course, when the Silver Bridge collapsed across the Ohio River at Point Pleasant, you lose 46 people died in that collapse.
Mm-hmm.
It's 10 days before Christmas. People are looking for answers. They want to know what's going on, why it happened.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, for a year prior to that, people have been having these encounters with this winged red-eyed being.
Mm-hmm.
And invariably, when, it happened, somebody came forth and said, "Oh, I saw the Mothman hovering above the bridge before it occurred. Maybe it was a harbinger." And that whole scenario has kind of played out ever since then with this creature. John Keel kind of played that whole thing up, and he's a journalist, so he took advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily believe it. There have been other instances where people said they saw winged beings or angels during disasters and such, but it's always after the fact. I mean, nobody says anything about it until it actually happens.
Yeah.
But I just don't really prescribe to the whole harbinger theory. But when I started looking into this thing in Chicago, and in 2017 when it started getting heavy and we're getting a lot of reports, I had people in Chicago literally calling me 24/7, especially during the summer. People who weren't even witnesses,
Mm-hmm.
who took the heart of the harbinger theory with the Mothman, and calling me in fear, wanting to know what's going to happen in Chicago. It was crazy. I mean, I didn't get much sleep those 2 months it was going on. And I tried to dispel that as much as I possibly could. I mean, to the point where I was getting on the radio and drive time radio in Chicago and trying to dispel all that. But it continued on. And a lot of people still believe that there's some type of harbinger associated with these sightings in Chicago. But so far, we really have no proof that there's any connection to it.
I even heard a rumor that somebody in Chicago City Hall or Chicago government, I think it was one of the witnesses, said that the government was downplaying all those sightings and shutting it down, presumably because they didn't want people thinking something horrible was about to happen in Chicago and hurt tourism.
Yeah, one of the witnesses who actually worked in City Hall, she worked with Rahm Emanuel, actually. And, I started asking her about, we're not getting much cooperation from the police or City Hall or anybody else. And she told me, well, you're not going to, because they're trying to play it down as much as they possibly can. I have filed countless Freedom of Information Act requests for video, and because there's video cameras everywhere nowadays, and I didn't get cooperation at all. And in fact, even security companies at certain buildings where people had seen these things would not cooperate with me. Of course, when the sightings started going on out at O'Hare, and when I had a pilot and his co-pilot contact us about a sighting that they had on the tarmac of this thing flying in front of their plane, I put a Freedom of Information Act request with FAA Great Lakes, and they got them back to me pretty quick, like every other one. Like they were expecting they could come in and just downplay everything. So, the police, we've had several police make reports to us about this. Many of them swear they wrote reports up to the Chicago Police Department, and we have made requests, but it's always the same thing. It comes back within just a few days saying that there's no record of it.
Well, I can add my layer to that conspiracy idea. I was speaking with a friend of mine a couple weeks ago who happens to be a police officer in Cook County, and he was telling me how there's there are these large owls that live in underpasses in Chicago, and he mentioned one of them that he saw had a wingspan as big as a car windshield. And so I said, oh, that's really interesting. Do you think that could have had anything to do with the Mothman sightings in Chicago? And he gave me a very strange look. and it wasn't like, are you crazy or like that. It was a look like, how do you know about those? And he immediately changed the subject.
Yeah, we get that all the time. I have talked to a lot of police officers who just don't want it to get out that they, the two police officers who were brave enough to tell us about a certain sighting in West Chicago in a neighborhood, and of course they contend that they did make a report, and but they were hesitant. The one officer's son talked him into contacting us, and then that's how we got the report. But there hasn't been much cooperation at all, though, off record, we have had several police officers, even retired police officers, who have seen this before as well. So it's been going on in Chicago quite a while.
Yeah, that really sucks, because police officers probably shouldn't be, I don't know really what's going on in the background, but they shouldn't be bribed or threatened or whatever's going on into
withholding information.
Yeah, withholding information like that.
Yeah, well, we've had firemen, other people who work for the city that have gone through the same thing, and a lot of them have been threatened. Just like at O'Hare, I know an executive who works for one of the airlines who was actually the sister of my attorney, and he referred her to me, and she had a lot of the cargo people working under her, and she was telling me behind the scenes what people were seeing and reporting to her, and she literally told me that they had to move people off of jobs because they were insistent about what they saw. And many of the witnesses who did come forward anonymously, but we kept all their information out of it. Right. Many of them have been threatened as well. We've had cargo workers who literally took photographs of these things, and TSA and the powers that be at Chicago either confiscated the phone or had them take it off. So it happens.
It seems like there's a tighter lockdown on O'Hare than anywhere. I know there was that one famous UFO incident several years ago where there were like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 witnesses, and most of them worked for the airlines, and for like 24 hours everybody was talking about it, and this was proof that there was a UFO, and this was as close to first contact as we're going to get, and all that just disappeared. It was like completely wiped from the public record until like a decade later when it started showing up on UFO shows.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the case there at O'Hare for a long time. There's a lot of things that go on at that airport. I mean, there's a lot of phenomena that hasn't been explained. Of course, the UFO, and we've had two cases, two sightings in one by a security guard and one by a truck driver, where a UFO or unexplained or unknown flying object was seen in respect to these winged beings. Now, I don't know if I don't think it was associated with it. I think these things show up when they show up for whatever reason. But, I've had other cases where varied phenomena show up at the same time as well. So that doesn't really surprise me. But there have been associations with various phenomena in many cases, not just there, but a lot of different places.
Yeah, and maybe that relates back to what we were talking about with the places of power and the portals. I know that's something Chad Lewis talks about a lot too, how oftentimes you'll get like a cryptid sighting, a ghost sighting, and a UFO sighting all within a couple miles and a couple days of each other. And it's not to say that the sightings are necessarily related, but it could be that they're attracted to a similar energy.
Well, Chad's got an open mind. He's seen a lot of things. He's heard or from people and sightings and stuff. And he's a collector of a lot of this stuff. And, when he and I get together, it's like, we talk about all kinds of things. But yeah, he knows. He understands it. He like I said, he's more open-minded than most people that look into this phenomena or any type of cryptid phenomena and other unexplained events. There's a lot that don't, but he is one. And I think he believes in a lot of what people don't want to believe in.
Well, I think the key is that a lot of people kind of go into this business with their own idea of the way things work, and they try to cram everything into that idea, and anything that doesn't fit, they either try to debunk it or they try to explain it away as, it actually is the phenomenon they believe in, not something else. Whereas, I think you and Chad and to some degree us as well, we're more admitting that we don't have all the answers, but would really like to know them.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, cryptids in general, I think are supernatural beings. I mean, just take Bigfoot, for instance. Yeah, I do believe there are areas where they are indigenous. Pacific Northwest, around the Gulf, down in Florida and other areas. I think there are populations, family groups, in breeding populations. What they are, well, do these hairy hominids or hominins, do they have races? Are they different races as extent? I think that's possible. But I also believe that in other areas where, for the most part, people see singular creatures that just suddenly show up and vice versa. I think there's something more to that. I think of course, here in Pennsylvania, we've had two famous encounters where UFOs and Bigfoot were seen at the same time or near the same time. And it had been other places as well, though it's not as well known. And I think there's definitely a supernatural aspect to those creatures, and I think it's either interdimensional or they're some type of portal traveler or whatever. We really don't know what it is, but they do show up for whatever reason, and people see them and they report them, and then a lot of these people who think that they are indigenous to our earth plane will go out and looking for them and then wonder why they can't find them or find any evidence. Well, you gotta kind of look at it and kind of deduct what's really going on. A lot of these investigators refuse to do that. And, that's their bag. I mean, if that's what they believe, that's what they believe. I've been hearing the argument for 40 years now. There's no way that they're supernatural beings. Well, you believe what you want to believe. I'll believe what I want to believe. Maybe eventually we'll get an answer.
One phenomenon that we've run across a few times when we've been investigating like Dogman in our area is the idea that there is some sort of a portal generated by the mist or the fog. Have you ever heard that story in any of the things you've encountered?
I've heard that theory. I don't know if there's much association with it. I think people do believe there is. It kind of takes that gothic connotation with it.
Yeah.
It's like the hellhound or some other type of a cryptid canine where it maybe be more demon-like or spiritual-like as opposed to an actual creature, flesh and blood being. I've heard all kinds of different things. I mean, but I do believe that the sightings, and particularly where we have here in this area, and this area is well known for cryptid canines, upright cryptid canines especially. I think they may very well be supernatural, but I think it's nothing to do with the mist or some other explanation. They very rarely are seen around here, kind of associated with that type of other phenomena. But who knows? I mean, it's hard to tell what it is. We really have no idea what we're dealing with.
And what about, I know one of the things that Linda Godfrey always talked about was the association between the cryptid canines and burial grounds, whether it's Native American burial mounds or cemeteries or whatever. I mean, you just mentioned hellhounds, so it kind of reminded me. Is that the sort of thing that people are drawing connections to in your area too, or is that more of a Wisconsin thing?
No, I think that's a connection. I mean, I we have a lot of sightings of cryptid canines and Bigfoot around places where the dead are buried or where there has been death. I think they're attracted to the energy for some reason. I think there's a possibility that portals open up in those areas, just like with the winged humanoid at O'Hare around the Rest Haven Cemetery. I think the association with death is strong. And I think it creates an energy where these portals or vortexes can open up.
And we were at Rest Haven Cemetery not too long ago. We had actually come there. I think we were investigating a ghost report at the cemetery and a winged humanoid report on the building across from the cemetery. I don't know about you guys, but I felt like that was one of the creepier cemeteries we went to. I felt like kind of a strange energy there.
Yeah, it was, and I think it's like pretty much abandoned. So I think that only adds to the creepiness.
Yeah.
Well, one of our cases, a truck driver at one of the docks there, one of the cargo areas, was parked right across the road from the cemetery, and he, about 2 a.m, he saw an egg-shaped UFO hovering above the cemetery, and he saw a humanoid or some type of humanoid literally ascend up into the craft from the cemetery. So, and we've had alien sightings around there. One truck driver was telling me that he saw a gray alien walking along the cemetery on the road. There's a lot of weird things that go on around here.
Okay, now I feel like going back.
Yeah. Yeah, it was cold the day we went, so we didn't stay long.
No, we were only out there about a half an hour, I think. But
yeah, there's been a lot going on around there. I mean, and of course, Bensonville being right there as well, and we've had a lot of sightings in that area as well. So there's something about that. And I think the cemetery is kind of the heart of all that.
Now, one theory that I've had, and I'm pretty sure I heard you present the same theory at one point. The idea that you are more likely to see something when you're not looking for it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so were both of your cryptid encounters while you were like camping or fishing or just doing something else?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I wasn't expecting it.
Yeah.
I mean, when I had the Bigfoot encounter, I was literally fly fishing. I was standing in the river. And the winged humanoid, I was actually asked by a couple associates who were Boy Scout leaders to come with them and try to explain why people were hearing screaming in the woods during the summertime that year. And we went out and we were there for a couple of nights until the last night, and that's when we had this encounter with it. So yeah, we weren't expecting it. I mean, we didn't know what we were dealing with. I mean, all the only thing that was told to us before we had the encounter was that people heard screaming. And our kids, campers, Boy Scouts who heard screaming, and it happened 5 or 6 different times as well. So they kind of wanted to figure out what it was. I think people were talking about it a lot, and some troops were refusing to go there and camp or to participate in events there. And they kind of got the idea that let's go out and look. I knew the one guy from high school. I ran into him by chance the week before that down in Baltimore. And, again, another by chance thing. And he invited me to come along with him. And that's how I got involved with that.
Well, that theory has kind of changed the way we approach things now. We used to go out to these sites and hunt around for tracks and try to take video of everything that's going on all around. And this year we've added fishing poles to our cryptid hunting gear, and we just go to these sites and go fishing and keep the cameras handy and wait for whatever's going to come out at us.
You know, I think that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, don't think about it. You know, kind of clear your mind of it. Concentrate on something else. Maybe the energy lessens to the point where maybe this thing will show up. That's just my theory. I mean, I think 99% of the sightings, if not more, are just people that just run into these things. How many times do you hear of an actual Bigfoot investigator or somebody out looking for something and actually seeing it? It's very rare.
If it happened, we would have a lot better footage.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, nobody has a perfect route of where these things are going to go. So, I mean, as long as we're around the lines of, you know, the general, you know, the gist that we have so far, I mean, we should be fine.
Yeah. If we stick to the woods in areas where maybe there's been a sighting somewhere in the distant past or recent past, and just put ourselves out there more and more, and you know, hope maybe we get one of those lucky encounters.
It's just gotta be common.
Do you think there's anything like preventing people from like taking out their phone and taking a picture? Are they like paralyzed or something?
I think, you know, you're talking about actually getting a photograph or something.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, look, you're out walking about, not expecting anything. Something with big red eyes and wings, it has a humanoid body, shows up in front of you. You're going to be a bit shocked. And for these sightings, for the most part, have been fleeting sightings. They don't last even 30 seconds at the most. The last thing you're going to think about is grabbing a phone and adjusting it at nighttime and try to take a photograph of it. You know, I don't think that would be the first thing on my mind. I'd want to know what the hell I'm looking at, first of all, and second of all, you know, taking a photograph isn't actually what I'm thinking about doing. I'm either trying to get away from it or try to figure out what I'm looking at.
Right. Cool. So you don't think it's like some sort of weird mystical or scientific power they have? You think it's just human nature?
I don't think it is. I think it is human nature. Yeah.
Huh.
Well, more question for me. I was wondering, have you ever had like a Mothman sighting or anything like that in like the Chicago area? I remember you saying you were.
Well, I something. I was when we went up to Chicago to film the Unsolved Mysteries episode. We did most of the filming up in Rockford, and the day that we were coming back, we were driving south through Chicago, and the traffic was terrible, which seems to be always the case there. And we were parked. We're not parked, but we were stopped underneath a bridge, an overpass. It wasn't a bridge, it was an overpass. In fact, it was an area where I had a sighting probably about 2 blocks away from there. I was in the back seat. The guy who was driving, he and I both saw at the same time a large wing. We saw a large wing come up from underneath the overpass and quickly fly out from underneath and up into the air. I don't know what it was, but the wing was huge. I didn't get a very good look at it, but it startled me and it startled him. And the funny thing about it was nobody around us seemed to even notice it. There was a truck driver right beside us, other cars. Nobody seemed to notice it whatsoever. Was the Mothman saying goodbye to me? I don't know. I don't know. It was kind of weird. You know, it's funny because before we took the trip to that area for the filming, I have several psychics and intuitive people on my team, and they were all telling me something's going to happen in Chicago. And I thought, oh God, no, I'm not going to see anything. I mean, that's crazy. And you know, the whole time we were up there, everything was pretty normal. But as we were getting ready to leave Chicago and we were out on the road, then that happened. So who knows? Maybe they wanted to say goodbye to me one more time before I left out of the city.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Yeah. Okay, now that just led me to another question.
Okay.
Have you ever felt like any of these things have tried to communicate with you? telepathically?
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I mean, about 3 years ago, we had some situations where some of the more gifted members of our team were having communication with these beings. And I don't know why they reached out to us. I think it was, I don't know. I don't know, because they really never connected with me. I tried, but I maybe I was just too closed-minded. But we had two of them, and in fact, Manuel happened to be out at Rest Haven one evening, and we were talking to him on the phone at the time. And I was sitting here with one of the team members who is psychic, and she was telling me that something's going to happen. And we didn't tell him that. We just told him, well, sit down on the bench and see what happens. And something touched him. Now, he swears that he believes that's what it was, because he said he got a sense of it in his mind's eye of this large thing standing behind him. Was it actually that being? I don't know, but a lot of what they were telling me and what he was telling me were parallel. So yeah, and that happened for about a month. I was probably stupid to come out and mention it to people. I should have just kept my mouth shut about it for a while. But unfortunately, somebody tried to take the initiative to communicate with these things on maybe a level that we were communicating with it, and it didn't go well. And we got all contact was cut off with this, and we haven't had an encounter or any type of communication with them since then. They were calling themselves, and a couple people on the team mentioned this is what they were calling themselves, the unseen ones.
So it sounds to me like a situation of don't call us, we'll call you.
Basically, and that's what I got. And I don't know, I don't know what really started it, because nobody on the team was even thinking about any type of communication. It just happened all of a sudden. And then several members who didn't live near each other were telling me that, we're seeing this and this and that, and we don't know what it is. And so we kind of put two and two together, but then things started piecing together as well, and some of the things that they were telling us. And of course, that one night that Emmanuel was out at O'Hare, because he worked for a cargo company, because he had access to the airport. So he was over there at Rest Haven, and he went in and sat on the bench, and this thing showed up. He swears that he had an encounter with it. And actually, Tobias and his wife Emily were up at the Catamaran later on and had an encounter with something that he couldn't explain either. So, and he kind of mentioned that maybe it was that. He just wasn't sure what it was. So, yeah. So, there's been a few strange things involved with all of this, but
we had some minor weirdness up at Kettle Moraine too. I mean, we've never had what I would call a full-on cryptid encounter, but we were doing wood knocks in Kettle Moraine, and we had something big move through the underbrush after one of the wood knocks, and it didn't show itself.
I've talked to a lot of people who've had some weird encounters up there. Linda had an encounter up there that she never really even wrote about or anything, and it was just before the time she got sick. So she told me about it. She told a couple of people on our team about it. She believes it was a Bigfoot. She wasn't sure what it was, but it could have very well been a cryptid canine as well, but she wasn't sure. But she was pretty adamant about she thinks she encountered it. We've had other investigators who have mentioned having encounters up there as well. And the Kettle Moraine is a strange place. Of course, it's spread out so much in different areas, but the southern area, for the most part, the southern part of the Kettle Moraine has had a lot of strange things over the years. So
yeah, that whole Holy Hill area there.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Well, you guys had any other questions?
No, that was it.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Lon. I mean, we feel like we've learned so much from you, and it's really been a joy talking to you. You're a great guy to talk to.
Yeah.
Well, no problem. You know, if you ever have any questions, feel free to contact me.
Cool. And if you're ever looking for something in Illinois and need some boots on the ground or need a good restaurant recommendation or anything, we're here for you.
Got plenty of those.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks, Lon.
You take care.
You too.
All right, thank you.
Bye.